What would you do if a helpless lion cub was taken by ruthless poachers? Would you risk everything to bring it home? Join Ranger Elias and a brave village as they race against time to stop a dangerous deal. Will they make it in time? Watch this powerful rescue story unfold and share your thoughts below. The African sun hung low over the vast, golden plains of the Kivuli Wildlife Reserve, casting long shadows across the grasslands. Herds of antelope grazed peacefully, and elephants lumbered toward a distant watering hole. Among the acacia trees, a lioness named Mara watched over her playful cub, Tao. He was her pride and joy, a feisty ball of energy with a tawny coat that blended with the sunlit savanna. Mara belonged to one of the oldest prides in the reserve, closely monitored by dedicated rangers. The Kivuli Reserve wasn't just home to these majestic lions. It was a sanctuary protected from the encroaching threats of poachers and illegal wildlife traders. But danger doesn't always come from the outside. The midday sun blazed high, scorching the plains, its relentless heat shimmering off the parched earth. Mara, a powerful lioness, had left Tao, her precious cub, nestled in the tall, golden grass while she ventured off to hunt. The air was thick with the scent of dry savanna and the distant calls of unseen creatures. Unbeknownst to Mara, two poachers, Malik and Jano, had been tracking the pride for days, their eyes gleaming with avarice. They had observed the pride's movements, noting the vulnerable cub. From a concealed position, they saw their chance, a cruel opportunity to seize. "Now," Malik whispered, his voice low and sharp, cutting through the stillness. They crept forward, rifles slung over their shoulders, their footsteps nearly silent in the dry undergrowth. Tao stirred, his small ears twitching at the sound of rustling grass, an instinctual alarm. Before he could fully react, Malik swiftly threw a coarse net over him, trapping the bewildered cub. Tao let out a high-pitched, terrified cry, a sound that pierced the otherwise tranquil landscape. "Grab him!" Jano hissed, rushing in to secure the squirming cub, his hands rough and determined. Tao's cries echoed across the plains, a desperate plea for his mother. From far away, Mara's ears perked, her senses heightened. She turned, sensing something was terribly wrong, a primal fear gripping her heart. Her heart pounded as she sprinted back toward the sound, her powerful muscles propelling her across the vast expanse. "Move faster," Malik urged, his voice laced with urgency. Jano struggled to hold the writhing cub, who fought with surprising strength. Just as Mara appeared over the hill, her eyes blazing with fury, Malik fired a warning shot into the air. The deafening sound echoed, sending a flock of birds into the sky in a panicked flurry. Mara skidded to a halt, roaring furiously, her voice a thunderous declaration of maternal rage. But another shot rang out, closer this time, forcing her to retreat, her heart heavy with helplessness and despair. The poachers, with their ill-gotten prize, disappeared into the grasslands, their figures fading into the shimmering heat haze, leaving Mara's anguished roar lingering in the sun-soaked air, a lament for her lost cub. The next day at dawn, Ranger Elias patrolled the reserve as usual, scanning the landscape from his jeep. He spotted Mara pacing frantically near the watering hole, her behavior restless and erratic. Something wasn't right. Elias stopped the vehicle and raised his binoculars. He searched the area, no sign of Tao. His gut tightened. He knew Mara wouldn't leave her cub alone unless something was very wrong. Wasting no time, Elias radioed back to the reserve station. Within minutes, his fellow rangers, Asha, a seasoned tracker, and David, the team strategist, joined him. "Mara's cub is missing," Elias said grimly. "We need to find him. Fast." Following faint tracks, the rangers trailed signs of human footprints leading beyond the reserve's boundary. Their worst fear was becoming a reality. "Poachers. We need to alert the village," Asha suggested. "They might have seen or heard something." The team headed to the nearby village of Mbale, where people relied on the reserve for protection and tourism income. The villagers were startled to hear about the missing cub. Kofi, the village elder, stepped forward. "We'll help. The lions are part of our land, too." The villagers spread out, questioning traders and checking paths leading to the outskirts. A young boy named Jabari, tending to his goats near the edge of the village, spoke up hesitantly. "I saw men earlier," he said. "They had a small lion cub in a sack. It was crying." Asha knelt to the boy's level. "Which way did they go, Jabari?" The boy pointed toward a narrow trail leading to an abandoned storage shack on the far side of the village. Malik and Jano waited nervously at the rundown shack, the air thick with tension and the buzzing of flies. The humid heat clung to them, and Tao whimpered pitifully from inside a rusted metal cage, his small frame trembling. "The buyer is late," Jano muttered, pacing back and forth, his unease growing with each passing moment. "This lion cub is worth a fortune. We should be moving faster. Get this over with." "Relax. He'll come," Malik growled, his eyes fixed on the horizon, adjusting his rifle with a practiced hand. The silence was broken only by Tao's soft cries and the persistent drone of insects. The value of the cub weighed heavily in the air, a dark promise of wealth. Just then, a black SUV appeared, kicking up a cloud of dust that momentarily obscured the shack. A tall man, his silhouette imposing, stepped out, wearing dark sunglasses and a smug grin that spoke of power and indifference. "Do you have a lion cub?" the buyer asked, his voice deep and cold, cutting through the oppressive heat. Malik gestured towards the cage, the metal bars reflecting the harsh sunlight. Tao let out a weak cry, a sound that seemed to shrink in the vast emptiness of the plains. "Perfect," the man smirked, his eyes scanning the caged cub. "Payment as agreed." He reached into his pocket, a glint of something metallic flashing in the sun, the promise of cold, hard cash. Before the money could change hands, a loud voice cut through the tense atmosphere, echoing across the dusty clearing. "Put the lion cub down." Elias emerged from the brush, rifle raised, his eyes fixed on the scene before him. Behind him, Asha, David, and a group of determined villagers followed, armed with sticks, tools, and a shared sense of righteous anger. Kofi stood at the front, his expression resolute, his presence radiating unwavering conviction. Malik spun around, panicked, his eyes darting from the villagers to the buyer, his plan unraveling. "We've got company," he yelled, his voice laced with fear. Jano, his face pale, grabbed the cage containing Tao and tried to bolt, seeking any escape. But the villagers had anticipated their move, blocking every exit with a wall of determined faces. Asha moved swiftly, her movements precise and purposeful, cutting off his path like a shadow. "You're not going anywhere," she said fiercely, her voice firm and unwavering, leaving no room for negotiation. Malik, desperate, aimed his rifle at Elias, his finger tightening on the trigger, but before he could fire, David lunged from the side, a blur of motion, tackling him to the ground. The rifle skidded away, landing in the dust. Malik threw punches wildly, fueled by panic, but Elias, with his steady resolve, subdued him, pinning him down with unwavering strength. Jano, seeing no way out, his escape routes blocked, and his partner subdued, dropped the cage in surrender. Tao, sensing a shift in the atmosphere, let out a tiny, hopeful cry, a fragile sound of renewed possibility. As the sun began to rise, painting the sky with hues of orange and gold, the poachers, restrained and defeated, were handed over to the authorities. The villagers cheered, their voices a chorus of triumph, their unity shining brighter than the morning sun. Elias knelt beside the cage, his hands gentle as he unlocked the rusted latch. Tao stumbled out, weak but alive, his small body trembling. Asha stroked his head softly, her touch filled with compassion. "You're safe now, little one," she whispered, her voice soothing. The team carefully transported Tao back to the reserve, where Mara, his mother, was waiting anxiously. The moment she saw him, she raced to meet him, her powerful frame moving with surprising grace, nuzzling him protectively, her warmth a comforting embrace. Tao purred softly, a sound of pure contentment, comforted by his mother's familiar presence. The Rangers watched in quiet relief, their hearts filled with a sense of accomplishment. Elias smiled, his eyes reflecting the peaceful scene. "They're home," he said softly. Kofi raised his voice, addressing his people, his words resonating with strength. "The lions protect our land from the shadows. Today, we return the favor," he declared, his voice carrying across the savanna. The sun climbed higher, casting warm light over the village and the endless savanna beyond, a symbol of the peace that had returned. But the story of Tao's rescue, a tale of courage, unity, and hope, would be told for generations, a reminder of the power of collective action. In the end, courage, unity, and determination saved little Tao from a terrible fate. The Rangers and villagers proved that when people stand together, even the most ruthless poachers can be stopped. Mara and Tao's reunion reminds us that every life, big or small, is worth fighting for. What would you do to protect the wild? If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to support more powerful wildlife stories.